name's Justin and welcome to this week's video. I'm going to be talking to you about power chords, what they are, how they sound like, and what they do, and how you can put them in a musical context to make it sound cool. Granted, it's a very simplistic idea to be talking about in a video, but I think it is very foundational for any aspiring guitar player to know what a power chord is. A power chord is essentially a two-note chord. Well, that's not really a chord, but let's not be grammar Nazis. It's a two-note chord of just the root and the fifth. So if you want to play C major and you want to play C power chord, it's just the root, C, and it's fifth G. That's all there is to it. Now instead of saying C power chord all the time, you can shorten it, and the accepted nomenclature for denoting a C power chord is C5. So C5 is sounds like this, G5 sounds like this, A5 sounds like this, F5 sounds like this. Now in a power chord, there are two common fingerings to go about this. You can either use your index finger and your ring finger to play it like this, or you can use your pinky, which is what I like to do sometimes. Two further modifications of this fingering is shown when you can put the root on top of the chord. So to make C5 sound fuller, you can put the root on top. Or if you wanted to get it to be really grinding, you can put the fifth in the bottom of the chord. But this only really works for chords that start on the fifth string. So for instance, if you wanted to play C5 in a really heavy fashion, this is how it sounds like. Okay, so how do you play a power chord? Well, you take any root position based off the 6th or the 5th string. I mean, I'm going to be using this for the example. Of course, power chords can be found anywhere along the strings, but for today's lesson, we're just going to be looking at the 6th and the 5th strings. So that means the E string and the A string. So let's say you want to form a D5, right? Okay, a D power chord is formed when you take your index finger, find where D is on the 5th string. In this case, it's on the 5th fret. The 5th is going to be located on the adjacent string 2 frets up. So for D5, it's going to be D. Take your finger, put it on the next string, then count 2 frets up. And as I said before, you can use your ring finger to play it, or you can use your pinky to play it. And to show you the other two modifications of the fingering, what you can do is to put the root on top of the chord, so it will sound a bit more thicker. And the other one is putting the fifth in the base of the chord. And what I mean by that, and how do I do this with a chord on the 5th fret, or the 5th string, excuse me, is I'll normally use my pinky to play the 5th, and I'll use my index finger to bar the 6th string, so I get a sound like this. And well, if you get a bit more distortion going, you can really get that. I mean, that sort of 7-string guitar kind of sound. Okay, earlier in the video, I played a progression C, G, A minor, and F, and I played it all with just power chords. Now I'm going to be playing this example again right now, just to let you hear the difference between the open chord version of it. So C, G, A minor, and F, all open chords, and I'm going to be playing the power chord version of that side by side, and I'll let you hear the difference of how it sounds like. Granted, this works better with a clean setting, so I'm just going to roll off my guitar just a little bit to get a bit of that clarity. First thing I want you to note is that the power chord is a movable shape. So once you have the root in the 5th, You can move it anywhere around the neck, and that will be its corresponding power chord. So if I want to play A5, I need to find where A is on the 6th string, find where its 5th is on the next string, and if I want to add the root on top, that's A5. So if I want to play B5, I need to find where B is, and if I want to play B5 on the 5th string, I need to find out where B is, and that's on the 2nd fret on the 8th string. So take home message: the power chord is a movable shape. So once you learn once you get a hang of playing it one shape, you can play it anywhere in the neck. That's just fine. Number 2, the power chord is melodically ambiguous, and what that means is that you can't actually tell whether one chord is major or minor. Alright, you can't tell that a power chord is major or minor. Why is that so? Okay, the power chord is a root in the 5th, right? It doesn't have the major or the minor third to define whether it's a major or minor chord. So if I were to play open C, or excuse me, if I were to play C major with C, E, and G, that's C major. Now this, that's the major third. If I were to make that one fret lower and make it E flat, I get C minor. The power chord doesn't have that. So how does the power chord sound major or minor? It depends on its position relative to the other chords of the progression. So for instance, if I were to play, in other words, the intervals between the chords make the power chord sound major or minor. Okay, it sounds like a big mouthful, but here's what I mean. If I take this key center of C major, C5 relative to C is the tonic, so it's a major chord. If I play G5 relative to C, it is still it's a 5th chord. That is still the major chord. If I play A minor, if I play A relative to C, I'm outlining a -6 interval. And if I were to play F5 relative to C, that's the 4th, so it's similarly, if I were to play A minor and C, that's really cool, because that means you don't have to spend hours and hours learning the full open chord versions of the chords in your chord sheet. Let's say your band leader comes in, gives you a whole big bunch of chords to play. The easiest way to get those down first is to look at where those chords are, where the roots of those chords are on the neck are. Just play power chords, and that's your first step into really getting the song to take shape. You don't necessarily have to play all the notes in the chord, just play the power chords and you sound just fine.